Hello, this is Camille Fairborn from Michigan State University, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Cause Teaching and Learning webinar. We're pleased to have as our presenters today Dr. Adam Childers and Dr. David Taylor, who are associate professors in the Department of Math, Computer Science, and Physics at Roanoke College, where Dr. Taylor is also the department chair. For today's webinar, they will give a presentation entitled Classroom Stats, Fun, Flexible, Free Mobile Data Collection, and Web-Based Analysis. The way the webinars work is that all listeners are muted during the webinar. You can ask questions at any time by typing them into the questions box, and we'll be sure to ask those questions towards the end and give the presenters a chance to respond. You can also use the chat box if you are having any technical questions. At this point, I'll turn things over to Dr. Taylor. David, go ahead.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for coming out this afternoon to see our webinar. While you're getting things rolling and getting comfortable in your seats there, if you have a minute or so and you have a mobile phone with you, open up your mobile phone and go to your web browser and go to the link that's shown on the screen, crs.link. This will redirect you to either the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, where you can download our lightweight app that's about 2 megabytes. And all it is a data collection app so that we can play along later and you can see how things are being like a student. So as we get started here, we have to go to the next page. Anna, how do you do this on your computer? What? Oh, there we go. Technical difficulties on our side. So why Classroom Stats? So this is a free application for the phone and also the web that Dr. Childers and I developed probably about 2 years ago now and have been working on it. But something the studies have shown over time is that students are more invested in class, especially statistics class, when the data they're working with is something they're invested in. And invested in can either mean something that is a personal cause or issue for them, or is about the class as a whole. And in an intro stats class, it's hard to get students all on the same page as far as an issue goes. So for us, it's a matter of wanting to collect data from our students live and use that somehow in class to motivate some topics and work on some of the statistical tests. Play with descriptive statistics and do all sorts of things. So we teach at Roanoke College in Southwest Virginia. Our class sizes are about 25. So when we're teaching intro stats, we used to hand out a piece of paper, had some questions on it, favorite number, how tall are you, what's your wingspan, etc., and collect that from the students. And then in our office, we'd have to put that data into Minitab or whatever sort of tool we're using. And it's tedious, but if you've got a class of 100, 200, 300 students, I don't even want to imagine giving that to a grad student or TA to do for me. I think that just seems like a cruel and unusual punishment. So we wanted to have a quick way to collect the data in a way that's a little richer than doing something like just clickers, which are usually a condition where you're getting one of five choices, or the fancy ones that are a really convoluted collection tool. And so Classroom Stats was sort of born. Spontaneity makes the data more fun. This is a class where you're doing, Adam does a course on statistics in the sports industry and asks interesting questions there. And when you have a class right after the Super Bowl, you can ask some questions about, what did you think the Patriots were going to get for a score, or how big is your wingspan? And try to get that data and do something with it live rather than having to wait. And I think, as we all know, as instructors of statistics, or at least I'm assuming most of you are instructors of statistics, visualization is a huge key for students being able to learn and understand inference. And it's one of those things where being able to connect that descriptive statistics, data picture, the actual data itself, and the inferential statistical test later in the semester is great. And Classroom Stats is free. It's the perfect companion for any statistics class. What is it? There's two pieces, so I mentioned this earlier, but one is web-based for the instructor, so the web-based analysis tool at classroomstats.com. It's free, and you'll see this later, but when you go there, you can create a free account. You can see a video demo, which is similar to the presentation webinar we're doing today, and you can also play around with a data set we've collected with about 109 responses, so you can see the richness of the online statistical tests that we have. For students, we've got the free mobile app for iOS and Android, very lightweight, very free. And you can enter the data, or students enter the data using this app. We'll show you this here live in a little bit. And you can also play games on there. So we didn't want to restrict ourselves to just asking numerical response questions and categorical variable questions. We wanted to have a little more richness to it. And the students that we worked with at the beginning that helped develop some of the back-end stuff for a software engineering class, actually. They wanted to play games, so now we let them. But the students, You can get the app in one of three ways. You can search the Google Play Store or iOS Store for Classroom Stats. It's the #1 app under Classroom Stats, the only app under Classroom Stats. You can also go to classroomstats.com and scroll down a little bit. There's a link there. Or the easiest way is to tell students to open up their web browser and go to crs.link, which has an automatic redirect to the correct store. Showing you kind of the process involved, and then we'll get to a few more details before a live demo. As the instructor, your job is to create a room. So a room is a grouping of questions or a task or a game that you're getting ready to do. So for instance, you can see here on this slide, we've got a room we're creating with mixed questions. So 2 questions there. Question 1 is going to be ask the students about their height, numeric free response, wingspan, and also a numeric free response, maybe getting ready to do a correlation, regression sort of thing here. After you create a room, you'll get a 4-digit code like 79FQ. That's not live. Don't do that, anyone. We'll get a live one soon. But the students are there in class. They pull out their phone. It's very quick. It probably takes 2 or 3 minutes to get the question in, put the room, see what students were responding, and actually be able to answer a question. And then the instructor can go online to explore data and see the descriptive statistics there. So here's one with male, female, and probably height, I'm guessing, based on the values. So you can see a box plot there with a little bit of variation, difference that the males in Adam's class happen to be a little taller, it seems. And then also you could do inferential statistics on this if you wanted to look at the, say, difference of means in this case. Looks like there's a probably a semi-okay-ish thing that the difference is 3. Pretending to like I'm a teacher of statistics here or something. Going to the next page here, what is Classroom Stats? So I'll tell you about it, and then Adam's going to give you a demo. We'll just mention one thing that I forgot to in the last slide, if I can scroll that for a second. One of the things about exploring the data online is that we've also got a way so that you can share this online visualization tool with your students through a link. So you can give your students access to just your room. They can't delete the data. They can't do anything with it other than explore. So I think it's a really cool homework exercise or in-class lab experiment to see them do some of this stuff for themselves. But as far as the games and tasks we currently have implemented, there's the bread and butter, which is the numerical and categorical entry. So a room where the students are just providing answers to numerical questions or categorical entry. You can ask up to 10 questions. These 10 questions, if they're not numerical, if they're categorical, you can have up to 5 responses for each of them. There's also that famous game Mastermind that for whatever reason students tend to like, so they program Mastermind in, and we've kept that. So if you wanted to have all students in your class play the same Mastermind game and see how fast somebody can solve it or the time between guesses, all of this data is rich and available to you. Set, I suck at set, but I think some people who really like to play want to see how fast they are. Set's neat in my opinion because all the students who go into the room get the same initial starting condition for the deck of cards, and then they get to play set for themselves and try to find sets. And it'll keep track of what sets they find, how many, how long it took to find them. And then if you're really wanting to have your students do an arithmetic quiz, which can be fun to see how good they are at addition, subtraction, multiplication, and some light division problems. Arithmetic quiz, if you create an arithmetic quiz room, it'll make a random selection of questions for you. The students will fill them out, and you can see whether they got it right or wrong, how long it took, and you can run some tests there to do that. But like I said, I think the numerical and categorical entry is the bread and butter here. So demo video is online, but we're going to do a live demo now. So if you do have the app on your phone, we'll need some data here soon. Adam's going to take over here and say hi.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Childers, and I'm going to take you through a demonstration to show you just how easy it is to start collecting data in class. So as you're seeing my class as my screen, you can create an account here for free. You'll get a verification email, and you're ready to roll. But let's go ahead and get into my account right here. And I'm going to change it to my non-administrative account. And I'm in. So to begin collecting data, it's very straightforward. You're going to create a room, as Dave said. And let's just use 2 questions. I'm going to ask, how long have you been teaching? And I'll do this live in class, making up questions on the fly. And then what type of phone do you have? And we'll do let's change many years. And then phone, we'll do a couple multiple choice. This could be an iPhone or an Android. Okay, so I'm going to submit that. And now what you're going to see is a code. So if you have the classroom stats, bring it up and enter that code, ECDX. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. You see we have 0 responses, but as answers start to come in, there is a response. We've got 2 responses. Now you can stay on this. Dave's going to show you what it looks like if you don't have this downloaded on this emulator. You can see that he's entering ECDX. The students, I usually project this on the screen, and it's quick. They'll do this really quickly, and most of the time I'll ask, between 2 and 4 questions so I can get the data quickly. Now, there are 2 options. You can wait here until all the data is there, or you can analyze live. And this has a clicker functionality. So if people are entering data, this will be changing live. You can turn off live data collection as well. But if Dave's going to enter one more and you're going to see this update live, all of the descriptive statistics are shown, and I also have inferential statistics, but there's an option to hide them. So you can just look at the descriptive statistics and then go on to the inferential statistics. We could analyze this data, but since we have a quite modest data set of 15, I want to show you a larger set of data that I have collected so we can really explore all the functionality. And you're going to be able to do this as well anytime you want to. So we're back on the main page of classroomstats.com. If your students want to go here are the links for the Android and iOS app. It'll direct them there. But what I'm going to do is go to the statistics demo. And this is a public link that anyone can view, and hopefully it'll show the functionality of the descriptive and inferential statistics. So here are some questions that I asked my students about how many hours they slept, gender, class standing, minutes looking at the phone, text messages sent, and miles run and walked. We wanted this to be quick and easy. So based on what your response and explanatory variable is, this statistical tool will pick the appropriate test. So we're looking at a t-test right now, and everything is dynamic. So you want to say, did students sleep over 6 hours last night? Let's take a look at this. It looks like the answer is yes. What about over 7 hours? Looks like the answer is no. And you can change these as you like. You can do multiple variables. So for example, if we want to look if gender has an influence on sleep, we can see a graphic that describes it, and we could say, is there a difference between men and women? It looks like no. One of the reasons that I love this is because I can get through a lot of examples very quickly. For this hypothesis test with a mean difference of 0, you can see the test statistic here, the associated p-value, a visualization of the p-value, and a confidence interval. Instead of calculating the confidence intervals, test statistics before class, it's just fun to ask them questions during class. So you can do as many examples as you want to without preparation. I get sick of the examples I have in my notes, so this makes it fun for me and them. If you want to do a 99% confidence interval instead of a 95, you can change that very quickly and have all of this update dynamically. Now, the tests available would be everything you would see in an introductory statistics class. For example, if we wanted to look at correlation and regression, we can see that it doesn't look like there's much of a relationship between how much time they were spending on the phone and the hours slept. You can take a look at the regression line. It's displayed here, the correlation coefficient, R squared. Explanatory variable will let you do predictions on what the response will be. And this is a little outside of the scope of what I would cover in an introductory statistics course, but you can see all of the regression analysis over here along with residuals. I also cover analysis of variance at the end of the year, so we might want to do one with 4 categorical inputs. It's nice because the box plots can give them input into what the differences are, and then you can see the F test over here to look if all the means are equal or not equal with a visualization of the p-value. We've also got chi-squared test here, looking for equality of proportions, goodness of fit, as well as just a traditional chi-squared test. And another thing that is nice when I'm teaching this is thinking about outliers. And you can include and exclude the data. Down here, there is an option to show the data, and we can see all of this student data here. And, you know, without fail, someone will put in, yesterday we were doing random rectangles. Instead of a mean of 14.7, they accidentally put in 147. So that can really change the statistics and the visualizations, but we can hide and include, exclude data as we will. You can change this live in class and see, you know, when we're doing regression, it's nice to have an outlying point to see how influential it can be, and you can do the analysis with and without that observation. So I will take that out. And while we're looking at the data, this is a supplement to Minitab and R, SPSS, whatever you're using. It's for quick analysis done in the classroom or for students to explore, but it's not meant to replace them. Those are wonderful tools that have a lot of functionality. This doesn't. So you can click on download the data, and then you've got a CSV file right here that has all of the data organized for you that you can import into whatever software that you prefer to use. I will oftentimes collect a lot of data from the students and then post it on our Inquire page so they have access to it and can import it into, we're using Minitab Express in one of my lower level classes right now. So one thing that students might want to do that I think is useful is play with the data themselves. So under my page, we can take a look at the rooms that I have created. Let's see, yesterday, this was something that I did in my class: height, wingspan, miles to house, hours to house. And if I want them to play with it, I can create a public link by clicking right there on Create Public Link. And what's going to happen is there is a link that is created that you can post wherever you want. And when you put it in your web browser, it is going to take you to the statistical tool with all of our class data. So here's my class data for height. You can see we did wingspan. We can think about doing some correlation. But they enjoy playing with this. They can ask multiple questions, and especially when we get into inference and picking the appropriate test, they can go through a lot of those very quickly. This also will allow you to get to the analyze statistics if you have some data from a different class or a previous day that you would like to look at. You can also reopen rooms by clicking advertise and collect more data.
So if we go back to our PowerPoint here for a minute, just to wrap up here before we open this up to questions. How do we make that full screen? There we go. How can you use this? And you saw this in the demo, but this is designed for pretty much anything you'd probably want to do in an introductory statistics course. It's got the descriptive statistics there, numerical, graphical, all sorts of things, 5-number summaries, scatter plots, box plots, etc. Correlation and regression, one of my favorite topics for intro stats. I think it makes sense for the students, but they can see that well and see the regression side of things as well. 1 sample t-test, 2 sample t-tests. You've got matched pairs. All of these things are there. Confidence intervals, and then chi-squared and ANOVA. We don't get to do too much of that here at Roanoke towards the end, but last 3-4 days of intro stats, we at least touch base on this.
And I was using this yesterday when I was teaching the random rectangles activity, and this was, you know, one of the first semesters we really had the full functionality working. And, you know, the difference in the activity when I had to go around and ask every single person what their response for eyeball, representative, and random was, it cut 5 minutes out of the activity and really made it more streamlined. We could look for relationships between the variables, and it made it more enjoyable, and it cut out that awkward interaction between going through the whole class.
So who are we? We were introduced earlier, but if you joined us late, Adam Childers was just talking. He's an associate professor of math and stats here, myself as well. And as far as who else it is, it's all of you. So if you want to use this, we hope you do. It's free. But we also welcome your ideas. So if there's something that you'd like to see implemented or ideas you have, we're welcome to hearing those and implementing some of those. We advertised this at the joint math meetings a few weeks ago, and some people had some great ideas when they were coming by to talk to us, and I had nothing else to do other than to sit there and program. So some of those new features got implemented live then, and we're looking for better ideas. And you can see a wonderful picture of Adam using classroom stats and a really old picture of me. So the future, if you can dream it, we can do it. Asterisk there, of course. but it's time to really build an audience and community and see whether this is something we want to use. It's free for us. Why is it free? It's because it doesn't cost us very much to do this, and we use it. The marginal cost of having other people use it is exactly $0. Things we're working on, some simulation ideas, so be able to do some things like have the app do some coin flips locally so that you can bring that data back and talk about sampling distributions in class. Public rooms, try to get some sample versus population things going on here. We're having parent rooms so that 10 different sections or 10 different schools can have the same questions, and you can look at your section or school versus somebody else. And then whatever sort of online statistics integration we can do, we're on board with it.
Yeah, we're hoping for some non-parametric options too, instead of the t-tests and chi-squared tests, so we could run simulations. We're close on all of those things, but our development slowed a little bit as the new semester started, and we had committees and classes. This is something we do in addition to teaching. So when we find breaks in the schedule, we can implement new things as well.
So if you have any questions, I think this is the time. I think Camille's going to take charge of that, but there's a link again. Sign up for your free account. I saw some logins and some activity earlier, so thanks for signing up. If you have questions, I guess now is the time to do that. Is that how that works?
Yes, that is the time to do this. So we already have a couple. Mike is asking, can you prevent students from entering more than one response? It looks like I could respond multiple times to these questions.
That's a feature that currently is in beta testing. So as administrators, I can turn that feature on, but I think it's working and we'll probably release that soon. The idea being sometimes you want to have more than one response. If you're doing, if you have a student who doesn't have a phone in the class, they can use a partner's, or if you want to have them do something where you're rolling dice and you want to have 5 different responses, they can do that. But we tested this. It seemed to work well at the joint meeting. So yes, there is that feature, but it's not available quite yet, but soon.
That's good to hear. Jill wants to know, if I have an instructor account, do I need to create a non-instructor account to preview a room as a student sees it?
Could you repeat that again? I thought Adam was going to answer that and I zoned out for a second.
Okay, if you have an instructor account, do you also need to create a non-instructor account to preview the room to see how the students see it?
So I guess, do you mean if you want to see what the room looks like on the phone, you could just open up your app and go to the room and go through it. The thing on your phone doesn't actually have an account. You enter some sort of nickname, but it doesn't have to be anything that's even related to you. It's just a method of making sure we have a way to say, if I have a phone and I want to restrict it to one entry, then my phone can only give one entry. If you have an instructor account online, that's where you create the rooms and see the statistics and open up the public room. So if you want to see what the students see for the data analysis, you're seeing the same thing live when you're going through the online statistics analyzer. As far as the phone goes, you can sort of preview how it's going to look, because when you type in the questions, it's a very lightweight app. It doesn't do anything fancy. So if you type in the question, it just copies and pastes essentially into the app.
And can the students play those games you were talking about on their phone? Is that, or do they have to download?
Yep, they're all on the phone. So the only things in the web-based thing is the statistics analyzer and essentially the room management plus some features too. So for instance, if anybody has the app right now, and I think I can still pull it up here on the emulator, I like to play set every now and then, even though I still suck at it. So I have a room here. It's ABCD. I needed something that I could remember. But if you want to play set, you can go to room ABCD right now. And when you go to ABCD, you'll pull up, here's a set game, and everybody gets the same thing. If you play right now, you'll see the same thing. I needed some help when I was programming set to make sure it works, so I programmed some easy sets in. The first row is a set to begin with. And then the first one, fifth one, and third one are a set. And now here's where I suck, so I have to really actually pay attention here. But I found 2 sets. I honestly will play later, so I'll give up, and it'll submit that to the server that I found too. But if anybody else plays, all that data is there. And I leave that room up for testing, so if anybody is bored at 3 a.m. and wants to play set, ABCD.
Okay. Question for Adam. Were you able to compare graphs from random rectangles, i.e. the guesses for averages versus the averages from random sample, and compare those on the same axes?
So you could do a scatter plot, but currently you can only show one histogram at a time. This is one of the things that we wrestle with, is what functionality do we want to have. I was trying to not build a full statistical program, but rather one that, you know, met my needs during this. So that's something that I would like to do, is able to do multiple histograms, but it's not implemented right now.
That's
Okay.
one of those things that we have the idea that people want that sort of thing, you know, we're happy to add it.
Right. The infrastructure is currently set up, so adding features like that is modest.
Okay. Another question from Monica. Can classroom stats be used for statistics projects that students have in AP statistics courses where they must collect and analyze data either from students or people off campus?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, this isn't a replacement for something like SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics, but it is a way where if you wanted to let a student sign up for an instructor account, it's free for anybody to sign up. They could sign up for an instructor account and create a room with, you know, 5, 6, 7, whatever questions they want to ask, and just invite people in their community or school to download the app and just enter their responses, essentially semi-anonymously, because the nickname they enter on their phone doesn't have to mean anything, but it could. So you could have different versions there. But we used our app to do a raffle at the joint meetings where we collected an email address and whatnot. One of the features we're working on adding is an ability to do a alphanumeric response, something you really couldn't do any statistics analysis on, but something you could collect if you needed to for whatever reason. So, you know, I think if I were doing a survey of, if I wanted to collect 600 responses from a community on something for a project I was doing for, you know, my research, I don't think I'd use classroom stats. I think that's not what it's built for. But I think for a classroom tool that's free and easy to use, I'd give it to my students to use all day long.
Okay.
And, you know, we constantly have ideas. These are all great ideas to improve it. And, you know, what we're hoping is to get people using it. And, you know, that's one of the big motivations for me, is it's useful for me, and that makes me want to work on it. But if we found that it was useful for others, that would certainly motivate me to continue putting time and effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, those were all great questions. So thanks to you that asked them. And I'm super impressed. My big question was going to be, what do you do with the data trolls? Because there's always somebody that says that they drank 80,000 drinks last week or whatever. Right. So you can remove them. That made me happy to see that one in there.
We discovered that, you know, in the throw of things when you're asking questions and the student enters the data point that's, you know, meant to be a joke or something. It was like, how do you get rid of it? Well,
yeah.
Delete it.
All right. Well, I'm really impressed, and thank you very much for sharing this with us. We've got a bunch more webinars slated for this spring semester, so I'd encourage all of you to keep an eye on the CAUSE web page or sign up for the emails so that you get notified about those. And thanks to, again, our presenters, David and Adam, and thanks all to you for attending, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks everyone.